Okay, so I'm here in Austin in Texas. I'm here with Dr. KristenNeff. Kristen is an autism mother, and she has written a book that will be able to help a lot of people, and parents mainly, with autistic children. So Kristen is here to talk to us about exactly what it's all about. It's called Self-Compassion. Stop beating yourself up and leave insecurity behind. So tell us about it. Tell us exactly how this can help us parents with autism.
All right, so first I'll explain what self-compassion is. And I like to start with the more familiar experience of compassion for others. Most of us are more practiced at compassion for others than ourselves. So compassion is concerned with the alleviation of suffering. It's kind of a caring, open-hearted response to others' pain. It involves a sense of connectedness, so that if you have compassion for someone as opposed to pity, you feel there, but for the grace of God go I. That it really recognizes the vulnerability of the human condition. And compassion also, in order for it not to be self-pity or just kind of an exercise in complaining, it sees things clearly. It doesn't suppress your pain, ignore it, and it doesn't exaggerate it. So in the context of compassion for others, that would mean stopping to notice others' pain, not ignoring it, or not getting overly involved in it, just seeing it clearly, allowing your heart to go out to that person. And then so self-compassion, I really define it as the same thing. So first it means you have to notice your own suffering, which seems like it might be really self-evident, but in fact, especially, going back to the case of parents of autistic kids, we're so focused on helping our child. We're so focused on dealing with the stress of the present moment that we don't even stop to recognize sometimes how hard it is for us personally. We almost feel like we aren't allowed to notice how hard it is for us personally.
And a lot of autism parents are in pain, and they write to me on a huge level, telling me that they hurt, and it's heartbreaking. They feel like they've lost a child, or the child that they thought they were going to have, and that pain never really goes away.
No, but it also, I think it's important for people to realize that it's okay to feel the grief. I think, at first I felt guilty feeling such grief because I loved my son so much. So I felt by grieving somehow I was not honoring him. But luckily I'd had enough self-compassion practice by that time that I realized I needed just to allow my feelings to be there, not try to change them or suppress them. But the thing about self-compassion is so when you have compassion for a friend who's suffering, your natural response is one of being very caring, being supportive, really giving to that person emotional support, which they need. People aren't used to doing that to themselves. If anything, they're much more used to self-criticism and just thinking about how they failed or how they messed up or what they aren't doing. So if you think about how we speak to ourselves versus how we speak to others, we would never speak to other people the way we speak to ourselves. I'm terrible, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm never going to amount to anything, I'm not good enough. You would never ever say that to someone you cared about. So self-compassion is really about treating yourself with the same sort of caring concern as you would treat a good friend. And so the beautiful thing about self-compassion with something as difficult as the grief of having a child with autism, or just the incredible stress you go through on a daily basis dealing with a child with autism, is it involves active self-soothing, right? We have the ability to even physiologically soothe ourselves. We have every single mammal, and we're mammals, has the ability inborn to both give and receive care, right? So all mammals have to give and receive care for their children to survive in the world. So we have a physiological system in place which involves oxytocin and opiates, all the kind of feel-good hormones. So when we give ourselves compassion, either verbally through kind supportive words or even physical touch, I often suggest to people just to give themselves a gesture of affection. We actually tap into our own self-soothing system, and it's amazing how much it can help in times of stress.
So, and what other things because parents watching now are going to say, look, I haven't got time, everything's consumed with this child. I'm actually not coping, not even feeling guilty anymore. I've gone past that.
Right.
One woman said to me, stop telling people that we're at breaking point because we're already broken.
Right.
So how can we help? How can all your knowledge and information in this book help people?
Okay, so most people, when they're at the breaking point or they're broken, part part of the feeling of being broken is not being able to turn towards it and hold the pain. Okay? So part of self-compassion is accepting that you're broken.
Right.
So what happens when you fight against something and you resist it, and all your attention is based on, I wish I wasn't broken, you're actually making things worse. You're actually exacerbating your suffering. When you can turn towards the fact that you're broken and really extend kindness and compassion to yourself for feeling broken, it actually makes you feel less broken. It's very paradoxical, but it really does work that way. And it doesn't take time. You don't have to, like, you know, other people I might teach certain meditation techniques. I would not say that to an autism parent. They don't have time. But just as they're dealing on a daily basis with the stresses and the grief and the heartbrokenness, just really accepting and comforting yourself for the fact of how difficult it is, what it really does is it opens your heart. So self-compassion is a way of opening your heart. And when you have intense suffering and you are able to hold it with an open heart, it actually allows for a type of transformation that can be very beautiful. It's not a matter of fixing it.
It's
right?
a matter of
So we don't feel compassion in order to feel better. We feel compassion because we feel bad. So it's not about trying to change what is. It's about accepting what is with a sense of kind, caring concern.
So how do we get to that point? I know you don't have an answer for, because everybody's different. But
everyone's different. I mean, I have tried to develop exercises because people ask that. So, like I say, some of them have to do with certain meditations. And if there's an autism parent out there who has a free moments, I have some guided meditations on my website. But
and what is your website?
SelfCompassion.org.
Okay, selfcompassion.org.
If you just Google self-compassion, it comes up.
All right.
Right.
Okay. And on there, you were saying you've got some tips.
I've got some guided meditations, but probably more relevant. One thing, so there's two very quick and easy techniques. One is I teach people to develop some sort of mantra, repetitive phrases, where when things are really, when the you know what really hits the fan, you're really dealing with it, that you can just kind of repeat to yourself to remind yourself to try to be compassionate during that incredibly difficult moment. So mine is, and I tell people to invent their own what feels right for them, but mine is, this is a moment of suffering. Again, oftentimes you're so focused on the child that you forget to focus back to yourself. This is a moment of suffering. This is really hard. And then suffering is part of life.
Okay? Not just the autistic child, you're suffering, it can affect the marriage, it affects the siblings, your whole family, and then you're cross with your mother, your father, everybody, you're cross with everybody.
That's right.
And so it all comes crumbling down.
So it's kind of just acknowledging it and accepting it in a way. This is a moment of suffering. That's the way life is unfolded. You know, and if I try to make it not be a moment of suffering, it's actually going to make it worse. There's all sorts of research that shows the more you try to suppress painful emotions or thoughts, the stronger they are. It's like you've given them energy. So this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. Very important. A lot of people feel this shouldn't be happening. Like, and I think autism parents as well, this should not be happening. Well, of course, a lot of parents suffer. You know, your child might have cancer, they might have drug problems. The human experience entails things going wrong. It's the belief that somehow it's not supposed to be that way that creates a sense of anger and resistance at the way life actually is. So by accepting the way life is and not fighting against it so much, you can actually prevent some of the suffering that you are actually causing by fighting against things so in such an intense way. So this is part of life, shared by all human beings. And then may I be kind to myself in this moment, just reminding yourself what I need right now is kindness. So as I'm helping my child, as I'm, you know, gosh, one really good example is Roland one time. We were flying on a plane to England. He wasn't potty trained. We had taken him out of diapers thinking that I was going to be so uncomfortable for him. Surely he'll just want to be motivated to use the toilet. He wasn't, so we just crap in his pants, basically. So it happened on the plane. He was throwing a huge tantrum. Every single passenger had like daggers. They were looking at us like, what's up with this kid? Take him to the bathroom to change his diapers, bathroom occupied, of course. So here he is screaming his head off, poop-filled pants, everyone looking at us like we want to die. And I just said that over and over again. I just said, it's like, okay, I have nothing else to do. I have nowhere else to turn except my own kindness. So I just really set myself kindness and compassion for how difficult it was, and it got me through.
And I think it's really important as well to tell people that it's okay to feel angry at times. It's okay to feel guilty. It's okay to fear the future. All those things. It's fine. It's just keeping it under control so that you're not beating yourself up.
Right. So compassion means entails acceptance. When you have compassion, you accept things as they are, and yet there's the inherent desire to alleviate suffering, right? But the way you help alleviate suffering is not by fighting against what is, because that actually just makes things worse. So I feel angry, I feel pissed off, this is really unfair, I'm stressed. You just hold all of that. You just, this is how I feel, and this hurts.
We'll put this book on the website with links to where you can get it. And thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.